What's up, guys? Michael Chandler here, and we're about to do a breakdown of the UFC lightweight division. Number 10, Kevin Lee. So when I think Kevin Lee, I think athlete, hard nose. He's got some great finishes via knockout, great finishes via submission, but he's somewhat been spotty. He's been up, he's been down, he's lost to some guys that he shouldn't have lost to, but he's also had some breakout performances. Even if he wasn't as skilled with the wrestling as he is, he's going to be tough to be taken down. He's going to be able to overpower guys and get those takedowns. He mixes his things up well, so that's definitely a strength, and I think he's a tough competitor. Overall, very solid competitor. Number 9, Al Iaquinta. Iaquinta, some people say Iaquinta. Either way, he's the real estate agent from New York. Al and I share the same manager, so I've helped him train for fights. He's helped me train for fights. I think he has probably the best jab in the division, and that's coming from personal experience, both watching his fights, the way he uses the jab to set up the big two right after it, the way he controls the distance with the jab, as well as feeling it when I have sparred with him. He's the kind of guy you're gonna have to knock him unconscious to get him out of there. So you really got to stay focused, be basic, put it on him quick, and keep the gas pedal firmly down on the way to the victory. Number 8, Diego Ferreira. Diego Ferreira is not a guy that I've spent a lot of time watching, to be honest with you. You know, not known as a guy who's got great knockout power or a guy who's going to catch you. He just wants to kind of plod forward, come forward, get his hands on you, and kind of make it an ugly fight. You're right, he's always going to be planting seeds of doubt in his opponent, making sure that he doesn't get the takedown. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, that's his strength. I think I match up great against Diego Ferreira. I would be able to stop the takedown with my wrestling. I would be able to put a pressure on him, a basic striking clinic pressure on him, back him up, make him second guess himself, and get the finish in the second round. Number 7, Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon, a true veteran of the sport, a true respectable guy, honorable guy in the sport. The guy's mind for the sport, as we have seen on his cage side commentary. He really knows a lot about the sport. High fight IQ. Paul Felder's got really great, crisp Muay Thai kickboxing. You know, obviously when you're a striking heavy guy, you focus so much time on your striking that your wrestling somewhat gets neglected. He does have, I would say, the edge in the striking. I think my wrestling is better than his striking is. And I think I match up really well against a guy like Paul Felder because I think my striking defense is good enough to be able to thwart his offense. He's a tough guy to finish. I would obviously always be looking for the finish, but I would think that would be a pretty one-sided unanimous decision. Number 6, Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is on a 7-fight win streak, been somewhat of a mainstay in the UFC. Your biggest fear when you're fighting a guy like Charles Oliveira, that first round when you're not sweaty, when he can sink in a guillotine, if he takes your back, you're going to be hard-pressed to be able to get him off you. He can turn into a backpack for 5 minutes pretty quick, so do not let him get your back. And as we saw in his last fight, his last outing as Kevin Lee, his striking is starting to get better. You know, and once a guy gets confidence in his hands, that makes him somewhat of a very dangerous guy. But weakness is still going to be his striking, as well as cardio and ability to make weight. You know, to me, I always look at the discipline and the character of a man. If you're a guy who misses weight numerous times, you're also a guy who's going to give up on yourself in a fight. So that's what I would do. I would take him to the deep waters and make him give up on himself. Number 5, Dan Hooker. Tall guy, long guy, big time knees, long arms, so long elbows. He mixes it up really well. Dan Hooker's the kind of guy you want to pick him up, put him down, put him on the ground. In his last outing, a loss against Dustin Poirier, albeit had some really great moments in that fight. Pressing the action, putting together combinations, hitting Poirier with knees. I would question his power because I don't think he hurt Poirier like we saw Conor hurt Poirier, like we saw Michael Johnson hurt Poirier, knock him out. So I question his power, and I would be really interested to see how he reacts when he's on his back. You know, first round, pick him up, put him down, wear him down, make him second guess himself, make him get into wrestling scrambles. Don't just let him lay on his back. Really play to the cardio of the guy, pull on him, hang on him, and then in the second and third round, start to put it harder onto him on the feet and look for the knockout in the later rounds. He's a tough New Zealander, so he's definitely one of the dark horses of the division and a tough guy to beat. Number 4, Conor McGregor. You know, when you break down Conor McGregor, you got to think about, you know, the left hand and the spins, and you think about all the technique, but you also have to break down the man himself, the mind games, the mental warfare. You know, he's somewhat of an enigma. But what we do know is he's great at mental warfare. He's great at saying things. He's great at getting under opponent's skin. And he's the biggest, most polarizing name in the sport by far, possibly in the history of combat sport. Standing across the cage from Conor McGregor, it has to be a different experience than anybody expects. I know I came into the UFC at the right time, ready for the biggest stage, the biggest stakes, the biggest hype, the biggest moments. So I think standing across the cage from Conor McGregor is something I visualized now for the last 6-8 years. He'd have to kill me to get me out of that cage. Almost got my knee broken in half. I've almost gotten choked out completely in fights. I just don't tap. I'd rather let my legs snap or let myself go unconscious than give up on myself in front of millions of people. That plays perfectly into my hand with a guy like Conor McGregor. There comes a moment in that fight where he chooses to either fight through something or give up and tap, and he always does. He always taps. Number 3, Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, the wild man of the division, the boogeyman, I think, to me, the scariest guy of the division. He's just so unorthodox. He's the hardest guy on the board to prepare for. Just imagine being in a real live contest, a real live fight with somebody. It's a serious interaction. It's a serious thing. You're competing for your family's food on their table. You're competing for your legacy. You're competing for your world ranking. You're competing for the money in your bank account. And a guy just grabbed fake sand and threw it in your face. It's almost elementary. It's almost so off the wall. Fans love to watch him fight because they don't know what he's going to do inside the cage. He's a winner. He wins fights. He wears guys down. I've always said I think Tony Ferguson would be a perfect introduction to who Michael Chandler is to the UFC fans. I can match his cardio. I can match his strength. He's a guy who gets taken down, and he's good in scramble scenarios, but I'm also, I think, better in scramble scenarios. So I think I match up better than him in all aspects of mixed martial arts, especially the fact that he's there to be hit. If I put my hands on him, I think I can be the first guy to really separate him from consciousness and knock him out cold. Tony Ferguson, I respect his body of work. I respect the uncertainty and the unfamiliarity of his style that he brings to the cage. Number 2, Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, I think he's one of the most skilled guys in the lightweight division. He's got power in his hands. We've seen him finish guys with his hands. Got a good chin. He's able to be in those wars. So he's always going to be there for 5 rounds if he needs to be. A fight with Poirier excites me because it's a fight that scares me. He's good everywhere. Dustin Poirier is about the most well-rounded guy in the division. I think Dustin Poirier is also one of the most respectable guys. What he does outside the cage for his community with the Good Fight Foundation, giving back. Anytime he's on the mic, he's respectful. Even when he turned down the fight against me, he did it in a respectable fashion. You ask any of these guys in the top 10 if they respect Dustin Poirier, most definitely it's an emphatic yes. As far as weaknesses go, he's not the best wrestler. He would get taken down by a decent wrestler. I would, in typical Michael fashion, bite down on the mouthpiece, come across the octagon, get in his face right away. He's going to be the guy who's going to volume punch more and try to wear me down. I'm going to be the guy who's looking for bigger shots, hurting him early, like a Michael Johnson did, like Conor did. Haven't seen a lot of guys who make Dustin Poirier scramble and wrestle a lot. You saw with Khabib. Khabib was able to take him down, hold him down. Poirier is a hard guy to finish. If I don't catch him with a big shot and knock him out, I would look for a submission later in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Number 1, Justin Gaethje. It's really cool to actually be holding up the Justin Gaethje card at number 1. Just a couple years ago, the no-name kid from the no-name organization, World Series of Fighting, who was, I think, 16, 17-0, and everyone was interested in seeing how he would do in the biggest competition, Similar to myself. How would Michael Chandler do coming over from Bellator? Justin Gaethje is just the guy who puts it on guys so much that they end up giving up. There's going to be moments where you feel like you're knocking him out and he's about to go down, and then 30 seconds later, he's doing the exact same thing to you and you're questioning whether you're going to get finished. Justin Gaethje, his number 1 strength is his cardio and his chin. The way he hurts people with his legs, the way he's just taking damage, covering up, and then leg kicking you while you're in the pocket. We have seen him get in firefights where he has, lost his footing and gotten knocked out. Got knocked out by Eddie, got knocked out by Poirier. I think he has a great chin, but I would put it as a weakness because we know he's going to get into a firefight and he's eventually going to get caught on the chin. I would also go to the body like Eddie did. I think the first time we ever saw Gaethje on the ground was when Khabib took him down. And we also saw, I think it zapped his cardio pretty quickly. Khabib did a really good job of just walking Gaethje down and putting Gaethje, surprising Gaethje. Gaethje was not ready to be walked down by a consummate grappler. Every moment that Justin Gaethje isn't in a firefight and he's on his back, or he's in turtle, or he's in half guard, or he's on the ground, is a moment that you are taking him out of his element. His element is feeling alive and feeling those endorphins and feeling the rush and the thrill of a fight. So I think you zap that from him, you take that from him, you snatch that from him. I would love to knock him out in the 4th or 5th round after a Fight of the Year candidate, collect a couple bonuses, and then win the UFC lightweight title. Justin Gaethje. So currently right now, this is how the UFC has the top 10 of the lightweight division. Now I'm going to rearrange them as far as my personal picks of who I would love to fight first. My fantasy matchups, if you will. Number 1 would still be probably Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje is number 1, the highest ranked guy. Number 2, the human highlight. Because for me, this is all about, as I said, it's not just enough for me to put on the UFC gloves and weigh in. I didn't sign with the UFC to weigh in. I want to show up, prove to the UFC fans who Michael Chandler is right away. One change I would make, just for business reasons, you got to put Conor McGregor as number 2. He is the biggest fight in the division. He's the biggest fight in the UFC. I also think, just from a stylistic matchup, a stylistic standpoint, he's a guy that I've wanted to fight for years. It's your perfect, typical striker versus wrestler matchup. Making this switch, I think I would keep this here. Dustin Poirier then would probably be my number 3 choice from a stylistic standpoint, as well as a guy who's ranked the highest as well. I would keep Ferguson at number 4, and then number 5 would be Dan Hooker, who I think I match up really well against. This is 1 through 10 of my preference of who I would like to fight. Number 1 would have to be Justin Gaethje. It'll be Fight of the Year candidate. We'll collect some bonuses, and I'll collect another knockout on my record.
All right, so then here's the tough question. That being said, where do you rank yourself amongst this?
See, that's hard because I honestly think I could beat any of them, but it's... I think, in my humble opinion, that on any given night, I beat any of these guys. The skill set that I bring to the table, I can beat any of these guys on any given night in a multitude of fashions. But Justin Gaethje came in and fought number 5 right away, Michael Johnson. If Justin Gaethje needs some time off, and if Conor and Poirier are booked right now, that 4 or 5 rank, I say give me Tony Ferguson right away. I think it says, hey, you're not going to come in and get a title shot right away, but you're good enough to fight someone in the top 5. I think the UFC has proven that, or at least proven that is their motto, that they're thinking. They think I deserve to be in this top 5 right away. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. All I know is I can't wait to get in that octagon and prove it.